Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar, Improving Customer Experience with Digital Transformation and Personalization, presented by Wilmac and NICE in Contact. We'll be starting the broadcast in just a few moments. In the meantime, just a few housekeeping items before we get started. All participants have been placed in listen-only mode with your microphone muted. But we do encourage you to participate in a webinar by asking questions throughout the presentation. Just submit your questions in the chat window and we'll be reviewing those at the end. We are expecting a large audience today, so in case we can't get to your question, we'll be sure to follow up with you individually and get your questions answered. Thanks again for coming, and we'll be starting in just a few moments. Okay, again, welcome to today's webinar. We're very excited to have you join us to talk about personalizing your contact center interactions through digital interactions and personalization. My name is Mark Huber. I'm the manager of pre-sales support and a 22-year veteran of Wilmac, where I've helped many of our customers to tailor their contact center solutions to meet their business needs. Our expert presenter today is Rusty Jensen from NICE in Contact. Rusty, can you take a moment to introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. Thanks, Mark. So yeah, my name is Rusty Jensen. So I'm the VP of Revenue Generation at NICE in Contact. So I've been at NICE in Contact for the last 10 years, so coming up on 11, and in 7 different roles. So I have done, sales. I've done channel work. I've actually sold the product itself. I've run different divisions, and then most recently I work a lot more on the marketing side, working on helping to get the message out there. It's really kind of my focus. And I think as we get in this presentation, I think you'll see that I have a real passion for what we do, NICE in Contact. I love contact centers. I love the science behind it. I love the excitement that's associated to it. And I hope that comes through a little bit in this presentation, but my focus is all about customer experience. How do we improve it? How do we make it happen? So I'm excited to be here. It's great to be here with you guys.
All right, that's great. Thanks, Rusty. Before we begin the presentation, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Wilmac and our long-standing partnership with NICE. Wilmac is a well-established company. We've been specialists in compliance reporting and quality assurance industries for many, many years, and we began our partnership with NICE about 20 years ago. We're headquartered in Rochester, New York. We got our start selling and supporting NICE recording systems in the public safety industry. And our success in that mission critical area led us to expand our reach into contact centers, into financial services, and we opened additional offices in Toronto, New York City, Philadelphia, and Los Angeles. We've successfully served over 600 customers all around the world, ranging from small 5-seat environments all the way up to a 40,000-seat global organization. But you know, our true value lies in our people and in our dedication to customer service, which is evidenced by the number of service engineers we have and our commitment to keeping them trained and certified at the highest levels. We have one of the most effective professional services staffs in the industry. And we have the depth and experience of a very large organization, but at the same time, we're able to offer the flexibility of a smaller company, and that allows us to very quickly adapt to our customers' ever-changing needs, especially in these times. So these advantages and our track record of success has led Wilmac to be trusted by NICE to provide our installation and support services to many of their own most valued direct customers. And we're especially excited about our partnership with NICE inContact, and they're the undisputed leader in the cloud contact center industry. Wilmac has built a dedicated team for the inContact CXone solution, and we're uniquely positioned as a provider of both NICE's on-premise and cloud-based solutions, which is really a strategic advantage for our customers as you make your journey to cloud-based solutions and transform into a digital contact center. So again, I want to thank you all for attending, and now I'm pleased to hand it over to Rusty Jensen.
All right, Mark, thanks so much. And we are so very appreciative of the partnership that we have with Wilmac. They're such a great company. They add so much value to the customers that we work with. And it's a privilege to be able to work with people like Mark and to help contact centers get better and be successful. So, you know, this is gonna be great for us to kind of go through some of this. There's some interesting trends that are happening in the market right now. And we want to show you some of the things that we're seeing in the market from a customer experience perspective and some changes that we see they're shifting. And then we want to talk to you a little bit about digital transformation, as well as how we personalize the contact center interaction, which is kind of a tall order. It's tough to do when you're dealing with high volume interactions inside of a contact center. How do we make those personalized? How do we make them feel like they're really just collaborating and working with us and having a great relationship with us? And there's some ways that we have developed, some methods that help with this, and we'll talk about the concepts in general and kind of run through that. So a couple things on what's going on in the market. I think the first thing that we look at is that today, 54% of consumers, when they go into a customer service engagement, when they call a company to be able to ask about support or something that's going on, the first thing to understand is that 54% of them have a higher expectation for the service that they're going to receive than they actually get. So they kind of go in with higher expectations and can be disappointed at times with the customer experience that they have. And at the same time, on the other side of the coin, 89% of executives today are saying, we're expecting that our company is going to have to mainly compete on customer experience. Not just about product differentiation, but from a customer experience standpoint as a whole. The product, the service experience, the website experience, the whole engagement process, and the front line of that being the contact center, we've got to compete on customer experience primarily. And the reason for that is a lot of the result, which is what we're seeing now. Consumers, as they're selecting companies to go with, 59% are picking brands based solely on the fact that they have a great customer experience. They like the experience better. They like the loyalty better. They have this loyalty to the brand. And so what we want to try to do is help position our clients and working with companies like Wilmac to do customer experience transformation to help you get to a point to where you can better control this and take advantage of what's happening in the market. And as a result of this, there's a couple of trends that are happening in the technology space and what's going on. And we're going to address two of them, which is digital and contact center personalization primarily, but we'll kind of touch base on a couple of these things. So because customers are expecting a better customer experience, they want a hyper-personalized engagement. with their vendors. That's something that is beginning to happen, and that's becoming more and more common, is that people want a very high degree of personalization, which we'll be talking about. The second thing we're seeing in contact centers is the move toward digital. So there's an overwhelming shift underway. So 92% of consumers that we have kind of surveyed and worked with and engaged are basically saying they're not happy with the choices they have from a digital perspective on how to communicate and interact with the company. And generationally, that's shifting significantly, and I'll show you some data on that, on how important digital interactions are, in addition to voice in a contact center. The next trend that we're seeing is the workforce is getting tougher and tougher to work with. They're becoming a lot more like consumers. They have kind of consumer sensibilities and high expectations for their work environment. It's almost like they're a customer themselves. And the workforce is becoming a lot harder to manage from that standpoint. It's a lot more of a cultural engagement and an experience that we have to provide than just a job, right? And that's one thing that we're also seeing in the workforce. The next thing we're seeing is the move toward cloud. So, cloud technology, it's not so much a, if we're gonna move to the cloud, it's a when. And there's a lot of new cloud technologies popping up. One of the things we've seen is a lot of companies are buying a lot of different technologies. A lot of contact centers we work with have 5 or 6 different technologies to service their customer base, from routing to scheduling to QA to the survey components, getting customer feedback and reporting. There's lots of different applications, but they're moving to the cloud not because the cloud is fun necessarily, or that they just like it. It's because of the flexibility and the ability to change and move at the speed that customers expect them to. And the last part that we're seeing is trends toward artificial intelligence, AI. So chatbots, voice bots, AI assisting and analytics, agent coaching, things of that nature. That is becoming really a big part of the roadmap and expectations. And I wouldn't say that it's caught on to the point of everybody's buying bots. Everybody's not yet, but it's moving that way. And there's a lot of interest in the space. And we would love to meet and talk about some of these other aspects, but today we'll focus primarily on the first two, which is that personalization and the digital side of the house, so you can get some perspective there. But because of all these trends, we're seeing a big shift. Contact centers, about 75% of contact centers are making major changes to their infrastructure over the next 3 years. And companies like NICE and Wilmac, we're trying to position ourselves really well to help you to do it and to do it successfully. So when we look at putting together our technology stack and our approach, what NICE has done over the last several years to kind of position to help make this simpler and easier is we've developed a suite of technology that addresses everything that a contact center typically has to deal with in one product in the cloud. And that starts with your omnichannel routing. So your voice calls, your digital interactions, your IVR for self-service, the AI applications for bots, all of that inside of our omnichannel application is inside of one singular product that helps route and deliver calls. That was the in-contact side of the house. That was brought together. And then NICE traditionally has had your agent scheduling tools. So scheduling agents to make sure that they're there to receive the calls and emails and contacts and chats, et cetera, the digital interactions, as well as making sure that they're on message. They're saying the right things. We're recording calls and screens, we're QAing them. We use analytics to select the QA. Just make sure that they're coached and performing well. On the other side, we also have the survey tools. So with your voice surveys, your chat surveys, email surveys, website surveys, just trying to collect information from the customers as to how they feel like the experience is going, as well as analytics that show how well they're performing. So we have speech analytics word clouds that can look at and say, you have an issue in this area. You can click into it, see the transcripts of the calls, things like that, to kind of give you that perspective. It's all wrapped together in a cloud platform that allows us to report on all aspects of it. It's all integrated into one product that we call CXone that helps solve all the problems. So when it comes to routing calls, digital interactions, when it comes to the self-service IVR, when it comes to the scheduling of agents, the QA, the coaching, the surveys from your customers, and then taking all that information and putting it into tools you can use to take action and make a change happen, that's the tools that we've been building for the last several years into the cloud. And we've built that suite for you to help you be successful. And we want to show you a couple of slides on where we're positioned. So NICE from Gartner's perspective, and Gartner looks at the whole company globally. So NICE in Contact with CXone is right there in the leader quadrant at the top right, being able to deliver not just the product, but the entire experience globally. And our strengths being our service strategy, our strengths being our global deployment, our ability to really execute is really there. We're the highest in execution. And when you look at Forrester, they look more at the product. You can kind of see the position of where NICE in Contact is. And I show this information not to just say, hey, we're great. That's not what I'm trying to just, I think that's an important thing. But at the end of the day, we want you to have this experience. We want you to have an experience when you work with NICE and with Wilmac, that it's the up and to the right experience. If you're making changes toward digital, if you're making adjustments, we want to try to make sure that we deliver, that we execute from a pre-contract standpoint, from an implementation standpoint, and help you transform your contact center and get it where you need it to be. That's what matters, is how we do for you. And so our goal is to try to make sure that we're delivering the best technology and the best approach to get you where you want to be. That's our objective. So that kind of gives a overview on the company and kind of what's going on in the market. So now what I'd love to do is just jump into some of the digital interactions, some of the omnichannel and the current trends that we're seeing from a digital perspective. So we'll jump in there. And by the way, as people have questions, feel free to put them into the chat. We're going to do a Q&A here at the end. And so feel free to put them in there. We want to make sure that we address any kind of questions that come up as we go. Okay. So let's jump into the digital side. So why digital? So when we talk about digital interactions, what I'm talking about is when we do omnichannel routing, you think of a contact center, calls come in to the right people, route them to the right people, but it's not just calls, it's chats, emails, messaging applications, social media engagement. There's all kinds of different ways that consumers want to communicate with your company or that potentially may engage. And when you look at digital and how popular digital communication and digital interaction is, if you look at it by age group, so 55 and above, I shouldn't be too much of a surprise there. Only 10% have a preference toward digital versus voice. When you go from the 35 to 54 bracket, 49% have a preference of digital versus voice. That's already half. As we go down the stack a little bit in age, 25 to 34-year-olds, 84% prefer a digital interaction to voice, and under 25, it's 90%. And that doesn't surprise me too much. I mean, when I look at teenagers, I look at young people now, it's almost like they don't talk to each other. They'll be sitting next to each other and texting each other. And it's interesting how that's kind of shifting toward digital engagement, but that's what's happening. And when people engage in digital and voice, they expect it to be a seamless experience where it just flows from one channel to another. And that's one of the challenges that we have in contact centers, to provide a really clean, good experience, but digital is definitely moving up. And when you think about the popularity, some of these statistics blow me away. 26 billion text messages are sent and received every day. It's amazing. There's over 5 billion people in the world that text. When you look at other applications like WhatsApp, there's 1.6 billion people using it, 1.3 billion people using Facebook Messenger. Applications like WeChat, QQ Mobile, Snapchat, Telegram, there's hundreds of millions of people using these digital platforms every day to communicate with one another. And what we want to try to prepare businesses for is that not only they want to communicate with each other, but they want to communicate with the vendor in the same way, in the way that they're used to communicate. And what we've seen is that COVID, this pandemic, has actually accelerated this dramatically, because what it's done is it's trained everyone to use these types of applications and technology much faster than they have in the past. So it's requiring that companies and others have to rethink how they're using this technology. It's making a big impact on purchasing timelines. Now that we've had to shift people from home, and I think the cloud is really, really starting to become a very high priority. And over the next 5 years, just from McKinsey, they feel like we've actually fast forwarded omnichannel digital adoption in contact centers by 5 years. And I want to maybe explain that a little. So that's what McKinsey is saying based on their October report. but let's kind of explain this a little bit. So this is a screenshot of Microsoft Teams as an example. And there's a lot of really great collaboration tools, Zoom, RingCentral, you know, Microsoft Teams, you've got all kinds of different applications. LogMeIn, GoToWebinar. LogMeIn has a great, you know, PBX platform, all of these unified communication platforms. And what's happened is because people can't do business in person as much, or they can't collaborate and interact as much, we're all learning how to use these applications at a very high rate. We're used to now being able to just pull up our chat and communicate and see a whole history of interaction and be able to do a meeting and have the recording just pop in there. And we like to have these these video interactions that are starting to happen, and share files and share data and share screens and collaborate. And all of these types of applications are being used on mobile and digital and desktop devices constantly. And because of that, and because of the recent engagement, because we're all kind of getting used to interacting with, the very next natural step is, in my little list, I can communicate with one of my colleagues. Can I just communicate with my vendor? Can I just ask about my cell phone bill? Can I see the history of my interactions? Can I start collaborating and working with companies in the same way? And we believe actually that's where digital is going to start to move. It's going to start to move in that direction. So think of it this way. What if you could communicate with your vendor the same way that you communicate with your friends? It's almost like that kind of that running joke. People say, you know, I've got a guy. I've got a guy that can solve this. No problem. No problem. Can I just communicate with my vendor and just start IMing them and just start communicating with them as if they're just another colleague? They're just another person I'm working with. That's essentially that kind of experience is going to transform the way we interact, because you can just communicate with a company at a rate that makes sense. You can just collaborate and interact with them just like you would a friend. You can see the people that are there, the conversations you've had, the people you've worked with, the history of interactions. Like this is like on Facebook Messenger, but it just shows you an example of how people typically and normally communicate. And they want to communicate in the way that they're used to, which is this. So how do we enable a contact center to do that and to communicate in that way? And then eventually transition into that's how we do communication. That's where we think things are going. That's what we're trying to prepare for at NICE and at Wilmac, to try to help make those transitions happen, make it easy for you. So what if you could do that? It's pretty impressive. So we're trying to provide a unified suite that makes it easy for you to create that kind of customer experience. So you can differentiate with your customer base the way you need to, the way you want to. That's kind of our goal and objective. So what kinds of channels are available? So one of the things that we found as we try to, you know, move people toward digital channels and we try to help them adopt is your customer bases are different and their preference levels are different. And we are offering 36 different supported channels. So if you look at this is a lot of channels, like email, different chat, your live chat, co-browsing, video chat, social media. You've got Facebook, YouTube communication. People put on website reviews and they get routed in. You've got messaging applications like WeChat, WhatsApp, and Viber, and all these applications where you can just chat in, as well as different mobile apps and different social messaging platforms. All these types of platforms are supported to be able to interact with and be brought into our system and routed to agents. But that doesn't mean that you would deploy them all. It just means that as a part of your strategy, you have the option. As you start working with your customer base and you find out you've got a lot of people that are international, a lot of them use WhatsApp, you have that as an option. You know, you have options to be able to manage review sites and manage those better. You have options for chat and voice bots and all those types of things. We want to make sure that those are available to you as a part of your strategy. Today we don't have anyone who uses all 36 channels, but we're trying to make sure that they're available so we're flexible enough to where when you make that business decision, we want to start interacting through Facebook Messenger or SMS, or we want to do WhatsApp, that you have that ability just to turn it right on and then have it be brought into your contact center in a way that's very easy for your agents to manage. And so we'll show you what that looks like. In fact, it's probably a really good next step is for us to look at what does this digital interaction look like? So if there's all these different channels that coming through, how does an agent experience it? Because in most contact centers today, the way they have to experience it is you've got one tool that routes your voice calls, you've got another tool that does your chat, then you may have another one for social media. You might have, 1 to 2 or 3, and they may come in a what we call multi-channel environment. So it comes in with a specific multi-channel environment where it's one after the other versus omni-channel where you're engaging and interacting collaboratively. So what I want to do now is show you what it looks like from an agent perspective, so you can get a perspective on what that looks like. So I'm going to pull this up real quick. If everybody can see it on the screen. And we'll look at what an agent experience looks like, and I'll talk you through it. So when they log into NICE in Contact, an agent will literally just select the agent interface and put their phone number or use an integrator into the application. They're brought into it, it'll load and actually show them their schedule that's integrated in the agent experience. They can also select their availability to be able to take a call. And they can manage their WFO if they have training, if they have coaching that's been done, whatever, they see their schedule, but this is really where they take all the omni-channel and where they manage their schedules and everything else from an agent perspective. So from this point, there's all these different channel options they have that I just showed you and explained, where when they hit available, they can start processing some of these channels. And so I'll show you what that looks like. So if I'm, maybe looking at my reports and I say, okay, now I'm ready to take a call, I would say I'm available as an agent, and here's what would happen. So let's say we have a customer that's on a website. We'll say this is with a bank, and they go online and they say, okay, I want to actually chat with someone online in this website. They may be front-ended with the chatbot. So the chatbot says, hey, let me try to help you. Are you looking for these common issues that they can select? No, I'm looking for something else. And so they'll actually type in, this is what I'm actually interested in. In this case, I want to look at investments, for example. So I want to look at some investment options. And it just says I would like to invest. And what the chatbot is doing is it's using AI to interpret what they mean. So when it says I would like to invest, it says, hey, the mutual funds are great options for you to be able to build wealth and be able to invest. So the customer doesn't have to say I'm looking for mutual funds for it to know what they're looking for and to explain, hey, we can actually have you engage with mutual funds. Now, this bot is something that can navigate them through the website. It can actually engage with them and provide a really good front-end customer experience. But in this case, we would say, all right, well, let's take it to an agent. So I want to know more about mutual funds. Great. Well, let's take you into an agent so you can talk. So this agent is Rachel, and Rachel can see the interactions from the chatbot. So if you look at that screen, and the chatbot, here's what's going on. They can see the conversation. And then Rachel can say, hey, I'm happy to help you. Let's talk more about mutual funds. Tell me a little bit more about your savings goals. And as she chats that, she can then, as she's working with Jessica Smith, she can then look at Jessica's history. So these are all the interactions that I've had with Jessica. I can see that, before we had to fix something on her debit card, I can see the interaction history that's going on. So now I can be better prepared to manage this experience. So I can also see that she prefers to be authenticating through SMS. So instead of saying, give me the last 4 digits of your social, she prefers an SMS authentication. So that's a good thing for us to know. So again, I can be a little bit more personal. So I can say, great, I'm happy to work with you. I'm happy to engage. So let's now say, hey, I'm gonna send you a text message. Hey, can I send you an SMS text message before we get started? So I'm chatting, and now I can also send an SMS authentication code to authenticate. Now, right now, there's a time gap. So by the time that she authenticates, there's a time gap. So what's the agent doing? Well, let's make sure she's continually productive. So Rachel can then go up to the top left in the same environment, and then we see an interaction coming in from Phyllis Wright. So Phyllis is just chatting. So we just do an initial greeting. You can see that canned greeting that she just popped in there. It says, hey, thanks for calling. I'm happy to help. She says, I need help right away. Okay, well, chat we know is kind of slow. So Rachel says, do you want me to call you? And she's like, yes, here's my phone number. Notice as she was typing that, she could see it being written, so she could prepare for that response. So now what Rachel has the ability to do is to upgrade this to a call. So now it is an active call, and I can now chat with Phyllis and have a call at the same time, all while I'm waiting for Jessica to reply. So it's this omni-channel experience. So it's being driven to keep the agent productive. So it's not as broad as like a normal collaboration system, but it's driving these interactions, and you can communicate in the way that people want to communicate. So from here, there's another interaction that came in that might be pretty quick. Hey, I'm locked out of my account. This is coming through Facebook. And I can say, hey, see my attachment below. I'm locked out of my account, let me in. It's kind of a funny joke, but that's something that you can actually share. You can share images and videos, and you can share things where people can do it. So she can send a link to do a password reset, send it out, right? So we had this third person on Facebook interacting. Now I go back to Jessica, and I just got the authentication done from the SMS. Fantastic. Now let's talk about your account. Let's talk about you. So that's the kind of experience that an agent would experience in this case. So no matter what the digital channel is, it would just come right back up, and they'd be able to interact with the customer in any channel you want. So adding a new channel is seamless for an agent. It makes it very easy for an agent to just adjust, because it's the same process for all 36 channels. So that gives you a lot more flexibility without taking so much risk in introducing new digital channels in the contact center. And the system will just facilitate calls, chats, emails, social, SMS, messaging apps, whatever it might be. And all of those are prioritized to be efficient and effective for you. Okay, so that gives you that perspective. So that's kind of a demo of the Omnichannel. And again, any kind of questions, please bring them up. But just as a couple points to reiterate, when we leverage digital and we provide a great Omnichannel experience, it allows us to be more real time. It gives you a lot more efficiency for your agents, and it's a lot more natural for the customer. You're communicating in the way you want. So your customer service operational efficiency is going up, your average handle times are dropping, your conversion rates are improving, you're leveraging the existing technology, your maintenance costs drop, and from a finance standpoint, you're improving your cost effectiveness as well as potential revenue, because when people are happy, they have a great experience, they experience something like this, they're like, hey, you should see customer service at X company. They're gonna buy more, they're gonna refer the friends, and they're not gonna leave. And that's really our goal. So it really does help affect your contact center. And this is where the future is going. Like, it is moving to digital. Like, what you're seeing is coming, and we want to help you be ready for that. So when you think about when people have done surveys, so Dimension Data did a survey and said, what do you think is going to be happening with digital? Most people are saying telephone volumes are going to decrease. The employee headcount will potentially decrease. But if you look at things like social media is going to increase, your fully automated interactions through AI is going to increase, your digital service volumes are going to dramatically increase. That's what we're all seeing, and we want to make sure that you're 100% ready to do that. So in this next portion of the webinar, what we want to talk about is how to personalize it more. So with all of these different interactions that are coming in, we have information popping up where we're potentially using the routing system to pull up customer files. We're collecting information on the customer. We're trying to present that data so they have it there. That's kind of your traditional personalization. How do we take it to another level? And by communicating with the customers in the way they want through digital, that's going to be a perfect way to give them a great experience. But then how do we make it more personalized? How do we take it to a new level? And there's some really cool stuff that we want to talk to you about that NICE has developed called Predictive Behavioral Routing. It leverages AI, and it actually helps create a pretty unique experience, which I think it's kind of fun to talk about. So when you think about personalization, 84% of customers say right now that personalized experiences are key to winning their business. If you can provide a great personal interaction, it's key to do it. And that personalization, what we believe what we're seeing, and I think contact center experts like Wilmac will tell you the same, that personalization is going to shift revenue. So the people that get it right, the top 15% companies that get it right versus their competition are going to get the majority of that revenue. Because customer experience is so important, and that personalization of customer experience is a tough thing to do, but the better you do it, the more successful you'll be, and we're trying to make it very easy. But 95% of companies today are not personalizing interactions with intelligent routing, and we want to talk to you about how we can help improve that through this. So the first thing we'll do is we'll just look at this video, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but this was a discovery call ad. I think it was maybe 10 years ago. They were running these ads, and I bet you'll recognize them. But I want to share this video with you to think about what is the ultimate personalization. And so let's take a look at this video, and let's see what that looks like.
Discover Card, how can I help you?
Oh, you're real?
You know I'm real. With our new card, we're always here to talk.
Well, that's good.
Because I don't have time for machines.
Some companies just don't appreciate the power of conversation.
Real people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm calling the land of machines.
With their robot voice.
Oh, I don't like those machines. Oh.
How can I help you?
Oh. I don't even remember.
At Discover, we treat you like you'd treat you. Talk to a real person. Get the new IT card at discover.com.
I think that is an awesome set of imagery, right, in that video, which is you want a real personalized experience. What if you're talking to yourself, right? Which is just, I don't want to be talking to the land of machines, right? They're just talking to themselves. She's just enjoying the experience that she has. It's really cool. Now, of course, that's a little bit of a caricature in terms of what we want, but it's a really cool experience, I think. And it's a cool idea, right, that kind of Discover was putting out in that market. Unless anybody on the call here is a competitor Discover, then we don't like it. But overall, that personalization, that's kind of the goal. How do we make it a great engagement? Now, we need the land of machines. We do need the automation, and we're making that better with AI so that we can actually have a great self-service experience. You need that to kind of divert costs for sure. And also customers, some like it, especially if it's a really good self-service experience. But how do we make it more personalized? And so it's an interesting problem to solve. And 10 years ago, the technology didn't really exist to make it as good as you're seeing. But we've made some really good strides to make this happen. So customer personalization, transforming it. I think the first thing we've got to be able to do is understand the customer. What are their touch points and preferences? Then we need to be able to adapt to the experience, to what their personal engagement preferences are, to make it hyper personalized. Even connecting people based on personality types. So are we connecting the right people to the right people? And if we can drive a proactive approach to try to identify a couple of things like the intent as to why they may be calling and being able to adjust to get them to people that can solve it correctly, which we can do, but also help predict some of the next actions. Those are some of the things we want to do for personalization. And we believe that when you implement a hyper-personalized engagement where people are connecting, much better than they ever have in the past, it can really help improve revenues. It can really improve customer satisfaction rates and get us to where we want to be. And we want to give them an experience that's just impressive. And so these hyper-personalized experiences using predictive technology, where when they're connected, they're getting problems solved, and they seem to be working with someone that just seems to get it. That's what we want to try to get to. So let's talk about what is available now and what kind of technology exists. So I'm going to share this video with you, and this is real technology that we have available. It is very, very cool in taking us in that direction of creating these hyper-personalized experiences. So we'll go ahead and play that so you can kind of get some perspective as to what.
Every day, millions of consumers dread making customer service calls. This universally disliked ritual is a necessity all endure. Interactions do not always go as planned. Clearly, this is not going well. In the end, it's as miserable as expected. But they must go on. Luckily, a new technology has emerged, encouraging contact centers to leverage the power of personality. It is called Predictive Behavioral Routing. An improved consumer ritual begins. Sarah patiently waits on hold, not wanting to sound too upset or bothersome. The employee warmly greets Sarah. They have a friendly and pleasant interaction. Satisfaction is achieved. Phil is anxious to resolve his issue. Like a computer, he is programmed to deliver the facts, but only has scheduled 5 minutes for this call. Once connected, the employee speaks logically and with order, so they're on to the next task. Kelly's loyalty is being challenged. There is an error, and she knows she is right. The employee quickly apologizes for putting her in this position. There is commitment to make the issue right. Here, technology stages one of its greatest dramas. A connection made in the AI-driven cloud. A quirky customer quips with a willingly playful employee. How did this once detested ritual develop into a gratifying phenomenon?
It's all about advanced analytics and using personalization to match customers with employees to enhance communications.
Great communication begins with connection. Discover more about the benefits of predictive behavioral routing. Make connections smarter.
Now, for those of you, if you watch that video and you think about what we're talking about here, yes, we are talking about what it looks like, which is we're literally talking about matching personality types and preferences on how people engage in customer service calls to agents that actually fit them and actually fit them. So not only are we talking about improving smart routing by identifying why people are calling and the issues they have and matching them to the skills of agents that know how to solve those problems, we're talking about taking it to a next level and creating a personal connection by connecting with someone who matches the personality as closely as we can. So you think about that discovery call, the Discover Card commercial, and it's somebody talking to someone who just fits, they're talking to themselves. That ideal. We're literally talking about connecting people with personalities to match personalities, to intelligently get them to the right people at the right time based on their best communication style, their preferences on their experience to help improve your business outcomes. And this actually ends up improving handle time. It improves your first contact resolution. Your customer satisfaction obviously goes up. We help with revenue and the effectiveness in your organization. So how does this work? So, and does it? And yes, it does. But one of the things that one of the NASA people said was that the process communications model is extremely helpful for predicting human behavior. And we actually adopted this model and generated an algorithm to actually analyze billions of phone calls associated to the phone number that somebody has. So when you use your cell phone to call customer service, there is a system that will actually analyze all of those interactions that come through our platforms and associate a personality type to you. And those types are essentially these 6 styles that we've seen in customer service organizations and interactions. And it's basically associated to how they interact in customer service calls typically. So are they an organizer? Are they a connector? Are they what we call an advisor? Are they an original where they're more creative? Are they a doer? Just want to get things done? Or are they a dreamer? And we not only do we analyze the styles of the consumers, we're analyzing the styles of the agents and how they interact with people and getting them connected better. So these billions of interactions through this predictive behavioral routing it's the largest behavioral database in the entire industry. And there's millions of algorithms, and we use AI to help detect it. And we create these behavioral models that are proprietary that show us how people interact and behave. And literally what happens is the AI system is able to recognize patterns inside of how people typically behave and how agents typically behave. And based on that, give them an associative rating in terms of their personality. So when somebody calls in, we can actually detect this phone number is associated with this person that we've seen has this type of personality. Therefore, we're going to match them into an agent. And all of it is done in under 50 milliseconds. So this intelligent routing, literally, when a customer's calling the into the system, we're identifying their personality. We're looking at the different agents that potentially match. Not only are we looking at their personalities, we're also looking at their skills, their capabilities, all of those types of things based on the customer type that's coming in. And we consider digital channels, all of that, to connect the right person to the right place. The predictive behavioral routing then looks up the communication style of the customer and then the agent, and then connects the skilled agent with the best personality to the customer. And then it routes that call and makes that connection. So that system is literally done in under 50 milliseconds. Those decisions are made. And the AI system continually improves it and makes it great. And you can see how intelligent the AI is based on the blinking lights. You can see that. Very sophisticated. But it is powered by AI. And that helps to ensure that the process is getting better. So it recognizes the patterns of customer behavior, of agent behavior, and then it makes adjustments and adaptations. And it looks at results. So it has continuous machine learning. So when results and accuracy is on the decline or it's not where it needs to be, it looks for patterns as to why that might be, and then seeks to make improvements. So the AI actually improves it. The more of these calls and interactions that keep happening, the better the system is getting at making those connections to kind of help personalize that engagement. And that way we can just help improve the contact center, reduce the effort, increase the resolution, improve the CSAT, help retain revenue and drive sales as needed. And it works really well, actually. It's surprising to see some of the results that we're seeing from companies like Macy's and Humana, where they say things like technologies like predictive behavioral routing helps us to execute on our promise, right, of making life shine brighter for our customers, which is awesome. When Humana implemented this sophisticated analytics and predictive call routing, it reduced their call transfers by 12% because they're connecting with someone that they actually want to talk to. And recently we've started working with Comcast to try to help them improve their customer experience as well. And it helps align their customers in a way that creates a differentiated experience and a better relationship, which they've been really working hard to try to improve. These are the kind of experiences that we see, and that's the kind of thing that we want to be able to provide to you technologically. So kind of in summary, just as a kind of a last point, is a lot of things we covered, but really just to know that NICE and Wilmac were here to help you make these difficult kinds of transitions. How do we get all the digital interactions in one platform instead of 4 or 5? And how do we get it in a simple cloud environment that's easy for your agent to process? That's something that we've designed to try to create. And not only do we want to do that, we want to help you with your strategy to get you where you need to be. So it's more than just turning technology on. It's a process to help get you to where you want to be as a company to start hitting some of these really great strategic initiatives. We just want to simplify your life. And I tell you that the customers that use CXone, where it is your ACD, your scheduling tools, your QA tools, your survey tools, your analytics and reporting tools in a platform, just one tool, one login, it's so much easier. It's so much easier than having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different things you got to integrate and work on and upgrade cycles and all that kind of stuff. We want you to focus on the strategic stuff. Your customers want you to focus on the strategic stuff. Let's simplify your life with the technology, get an omnichannel platform in place, and then let's work with people like Wilmac to help that whole customer experience strategy get where you need to be. And let's do the fun stuff. Let's start connecting the right personalities. Let's make it personalized. Let's make it great. That's where we want to help get you. That's our goal. So that kind of gives you some perspective. So we've left about 13 minutes or so for questions. And I know that some have been coming in. And then for anybody else that has any other questions, we'd love to address those. And Mark, if you want to take a look at those, and maybe we can start answering any kind of questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rusty, thank you very much for that outstanding presentation. Lots of exciting new technologies available to the contact center industry out there today. We do have some questions that have come in. For starters, how do I get started? We currently have a few channels, and going to 36 new channels might overwhelm my agents.
Yeah, going to 36, again, not necessary, right? It's just what kind of channels make sense for your customers. So I think a great engagement is to figure out what your customer profile is, what types of applications they typically use, and let's use a few. But one of the things you'll find that makes it very easy is even if we go from, let's say, 3 channels, maybe it's voice, email, and chat, and then we add another 3, what you see in that omni-channel system is that they literally come in. To the agent, it's just another tab that pops up, but it's all the same kind of structure. You have your word boxes here, you have your response panel here, and you have your customer card on the right, and it's all in the same spot. So actually adding new channels is just a matter of tying it into our system, creating the link, obviously installing the ability for that communication to happen on your side. It's a pretty quick setup. Then to your agent, it's a pretty seamless experience. So that's part of it, is just making sure that it's one tool that's built in the same way, the same repeatable pattern to make it easy to adopt those channels. And anybody who goes all the way up to 36, I think gets a prize. So that's right. But
Don't overwhelm your agents. That's the name of the game, right?
Yep, exactly.
All right. Next question. What does a typical deployment or roadmap look like?
That's a great question. So typically from an implementation perspective, typically what you would, I'm gonna actually stop sharing so we can just see the video. So typically from an implementation perspective, depending on what you're deploying, usually as we go through a sales cycle, it's typically about 4 to 6 months to kind of go through the whole evaluation process, the planning process, the consulting, how are we gonna make this transition happen? And then once you actually go to deploy the technology, you're looking at about 60 to 120 days to get the core applications in place. So that's your omni-channel routing systems, your digital interactions, all of those types of the core routing systems. That's typically what it takes. And most of it is just doing it right, getting the project plan, getting the company to adjust. I mean, it's a process to make that kind of transition. I mean, the technology can be turned on overnight, but usually it's let's work on it, let's build it together, let's consult on it the way we need to. And then to get the full deployment of like your scheduling tools and all those other things in place, it's usually about 6 months. Usually it takes about 6 months for everybody to get used to the first part, add the next product, and just get it working. Usually takes them about 6 months for the company to do it. And it can obviously be done much, much faster, but it just depends on, that's just what we typically see. It's a process.
All right. Next question coming in, and I like this one. Are customers really trying to reach me through messaging apps?
So that is a good one. So it's interesting, if you look at a lot of the digital traffic, your things like Facebook Messenger, the answer is absolutely today. And it's because Facebook Messenger kind of blends your SMS and everything else. SMS and chat and email are really the highest volume. Somebody going on Facebook and just saying, hey, I want to go to your customer file and just send you a message is not as common. So we're seeing that as you know, social media, we talk about it a lot, but most of it's through like a Facebook Messenger type app. But WhatsApp and other applications are becoming more popular. So it is starting to happen, but I think we're a little bit ahead of the curve. And what you got to remember is that's how people are communicating today. You know, there's 1.6 billion people using WhatsApp. It is how they communicate with their friends, family, and others today. And if they knew it was available and they could just add you as a friend and actually start communicating with your company, they would use it. But it's something we got to think about more as it's an emerging technology. It's an emerging thing. If you can get ahead, you can provide a unique customer experience for them. That's really awesome. If you can get ahead of it, promote it, help them know it's available, they'll start using it. But most of it is in some of those digital apps. And the other thing that's happening a lot is the review sites. So when people submit reviews and they're actually submitting information about your company in different areas, or they're making comments, that's something that contact centers are processing more often. and those can be routed in as well. And that helps you get control of your website, brand, everything like that too. So great question.
All right, great, thanks. Next question coming in is, why is digital transformation important?
So digital transformation, it's just important to keep pace with what your customers want or what their preferences are. The new emerging generations, if you look at that data, 90% plus of people under 25 prefer digital interaction. 50% of millennials, right, or even people from 35 to 55 Xers, and then 80% of people that are I don't know what was the numbers from 25 to 35. That's just the preferences that people have, and they actually expect it. And people are kind of used to working with contact centers and only being able to have like a couple of specific options, but the more options you have and the more dynamic the experience, the better you'll be able to differentiate. And the faster you can do it and do it well, the easier it is for you to stay ahead of the curve, because it's not something that's moving at the speed that you would think. It's just hard to move those engines, especially with all the different technologies people have. It's hard to make contact center transformation. If you can do it faster and you can make it available, it's a huge differentiator for you. It's phenomenal.
All right, next one. How does your product ensure business continuity or disaster recovery?
So that's critical, right? Because all of this fun stuff, when we talk about digital interactions, we talk about all this cool AI and all this great thing, that's all great. Not very helpful if the system goes down and you can't talk to your customer. Not very helpful if your system is deployed and it's not PCI compliant or GDPR compliant for EMEA, or it's not, federally compliant when you're dealing with government agencies, whatever it might be. So what our system has done, it's designed, it's architected with high availability. The system is built from the ground up inside the cloud. So we took all the proprietary technology from NICE, their on-prem systems, and built it in the cloud. And we've got 20 plus years of experience making that work. Because when it comes to disaster recovery, continuity, stability, there's two sides to it. There's a hardware situation, which is solved pretty easily when you build microservices architecture into AWS, which we have, because then you're completely distributed geographically across all our hardware. That's usually not the problem anymore. What becomes the problem is the software. How good is it at actually making transitions? When something goes down in a certain area, you have your backups. How do they transition? And we've been able to design it to where we guarantee 99.99% uptime, even during maintenance windows. So even while we're doing maintenance, we guarantee the system to be up, which helps you to kind of have that confidence. And not only is it up, it's also secure. So we've got a background in carrier background since 1997. We know how to make sure that you've got the right kind of redundancy, the right kind of architecture. If you want us to integrate with your existing phone systems on-prem that work really well, if you want us to build auto recovery platforms that can switch and give you all kinds of continuity, we are all about designing it right, because we know how important that uptime is, and we get it better than anybody. It's not close.
All right, great, thanks. So we're getting close to the top of the hour here. I think we have time for one more question. And as we promised at the beginning, we will get to all of the questions directly with you if we didn't get to your question today. So last one we're going to present is, how is omnichannel different from multi-channel? And can you define each of those?
Yeah, that's a great question, because traditionally, as new digital channels have come into the contact center, from voice into digital, it was designed to interact a lot like calls do, which is, a call comes in, you process the call, right? A chat comes in, you process the chat. An email comes in, you process the email. And sometimes you could do multiple. You can process maybe 3 chats at a time. But in a multi-channel environment, you can just manage multiple channels. But they're done one at a time. Or in some digital cases, maybe 2 or 3 you can do at the same time of the same type. But in an omni-channel environment, what that allows you to have is you have these universal queues that come in, and it allows you to be able to interact and do all the things at the same time. I can be on a call and chat at the same time. I can be chatting and I can turn it into a call, and I can chat an email at the same time. I can see all my interactions as they're coming in and they're routed, and that you can control the flow. you can limit how much a specific agent can take, but you can do multiple things at the same time. It allows agents to multitask when they have the ability to do that. So when a customer says, hold on a minute, let me look for some information, they can process other information at the same time. Or we can turn into calls and emails at the same time. We can interact at the same time. That's what your omni-channel is versus multi-channel.
All right, great. So again, everybody, on behalf of Wilmac and NICE in Contact, I want to thank you for attending today's webinar. We know your time is very valuable, and we hope you found today's presentation to be valuable to you. And regardless of where your contact center is in your journey to digital, Wilmac would welcome the opportunity to consult with you and further to help you achieve your goals. So feel free to reach out to us anytime. Maybe Rusty, if you could put that last slide back up real quick for me. That's got our email contact, which is contact@wilmacco.com. Reach out to us anytime, and we'll be glad to help you out. Again, thank you all very much and have a terrific day.
Thanks, everybody.